So, I was reading some Grelliam Fanfiction the other night, because I always like it for a chuckle, and I came across one that was so bad that I decided to do a dramatic reading of it. And I thought, who better to read a terrible Grelliam fanfiction than Madame Red? So, here's Madame Red, reading a terrible Grelliam fanfiction. Enjoy! Grell walked through the dimly lit hallway, his royal red-colored robes slipping off his shoulders. The few lanterns that were lit casted an eerie glow on everything, creating shadows that seemed to reach out toward him. His breath echoed, his footsteps silent against the carpet, and his heart beating a steady pace. Will. That was the only thought as he stopped in front of a black wooden door. He slowly pushed it in. The musk that was purely Will covered, flooding through his nose. It beckoned him to go inside the room, to meet what he knew would be his end, his undoing. Rather dramatic. It had been the same routine for months now. He would visit Will and let him have his way with him. Then Will would leave him alone to pick himself up, and the next day act like nothing had ever happened between them. Grell vaguely remembered what started the whole thing. Booze. Apparently, William was a very sadistic man, and seemed to only revel that part of himself when he was stone-cold drunk. No, I don't know. Will ended up raping him in an alleyway. Wow, that sounds terrible. He still even had the scars on his back from the wall to prove it. What, from the wall? What was on the wall? Did he, put you on a sconce? Grell, you should probably be careful. From then on, it just spiraled downward, and now here he was, standing just inside of Will's room, waiting for the command that Will gives him every night. Fate must not have liked him, for it tortured him with Will. It told him that he would never be able to have a relationship that he wanted with said man. Of course not, because he's raping you. Come in, said a smooth, velvety voice from inside the room. I thought you were inside the room already. Grell fought the urge to shudder, knowing it would turn Will on even more and make the night more painful for him. Despite his looks, attitude, and personality, he was a vanilla lover, and adored sweet caresses and soft whispered words of love, which was everything that Will wasn't. Maybe if he had simply stuck to his fantasies and had fought Will off a little harder that faithful night, the nightmare wouldn't exist. After that night, William cornered him at the office and told him to visit his room every night, or a video of their acts would be played for the whole world to see. Shame simply forced Grell to say yes. If he had a video of the rape, why would... I don't understand. At least that's what he kept telling himself, his heart simply refusing the other reason he had said yes. Slipping back into reality, Grell walked into the room and waited for Will's instructions, steadying his breath, which had started to speed up in nervousness. You're late tonight. Grell didn't even dare to touch the statement with a 10-foot pole. Well, that's a mix of metaphors. It was more deadly answering back than walking across a land full of minefields. A land full of minefields, instead of just walking across... Okay. This means I'll have to punish you. Gripping his fists tightly, he forced himself to keep his mouth shut, hands wrapped around his shoulders, gently squeezing around his throat. You know, I could kill you right now if I wanted to. At least I wouldn't have to suffer this agony anymore. If he killed you right now, I wouldn't have to read this anymore. Will's hand suddenly let go of his neck and grabbed his privates roughly. Ow! That would hurt, making Grell whimper out in slight pain. Slight pain? Wow. Don't make a sound, commanded Will. Grell nodded frantically, biting his lower lip to keep any noises from spilling out of his mouth. Will continued to roughly fondle Grell, the action somehow, as always, managing to turn him on to an extent. Oh. I don't have male genitals, but I would think that would really hurt. On your hands and knees, now. Grell did as he was told, his breathing faster than normal. Silence descended on the room for a second before the crack of a whip echoed, a sting to Grell's ass moments later. Did you just have the whip on the wall? Where did you pull this whip out from? I don't understand. Crack! 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 Over and over again William whacked him, the sting of the leather on his backside becoming too much for Grell to handle. Soon small sobs left his lips, the whip hitting harder and harder the more he let out his cries. "Have you learned your lesson?" William asked. "Yes." "Yes, what?" The whip smacked across Grell's shoulder this time, making him hiss in pain. "Yes, sir." "There's a good boy," cooed Will, his hands coming up and grabbing Grell's hair, jerking his head back. "I smell blood." "Of course you smell blood. You just whipped him. There would be blood all over him." "Did you bite through your lip again?" Grell quickly ran his tongue over his bottom lip, realizing that he had indeed bitten through it. Closing his eyes, he forced himself not to back at Will. He refused to look directly at his face during their intimate acts, like he did the first time together. Grell's robe slipped off of him, making his breath hitch as the cool air hit his body. Soon he was flipped onto his back. "Ow, you were just whipped. That would really hurt." His nipples were tweaked and his navel tickled, anything to get a noise or a reaction, but Grell kept silent. It wasn't out of defiance so much as self-preservation. Grell knew they turned Will on. His noises? Meaning that he would go faster. That, and who knew how Will would react if he accidentally let his true feelings slip out. Will's hands finally left his body, leaving Grell tense with anticipation. This part was where Will would shove himself into Grell without preparation. Ow! Ow! That... 1, that would hurt William. 2, ow! You wouldn't be able to sit for a week. There would be shit everywhere. This was the part where Grell would cry out in pain. Of course you would. This was the part where Will would release inside him. In the instant? Just like one and done? Wow. And then leave Grell to clean himself and pick himself up, and the shattered pieces of his broken heart. Instead, fingers came to rest gently on his lips, the ones he bit clean through. No, his other lips. "Why do you insist on not looking at me when we're in bed?" "Oh, I don't know. Maybe because you're raping him." Grell started at Will's voice. It had emotion in it, calculative and, how should he put it, a bit sad. Oh, good, yes. William gets to be sad. "You know, I talked to that bastard yesterday." The bastard Will was referring to being Sebastian. "And he said something quite interesting. I just can't seem to wrap my head around it." Can't seem to wrap your head around the fact that raping people's not all right. So, what was with all the talking? Yes, I agree. Why did Will suddenly bring up Sebastian? What was the reason for this change of pace? Grell began to feel panic start to seep into his whole being, his body shaking with the intensity of it. "Shh," Will commanded. It's not really a command. The sound made Grell freeze. He wanted to open his eyes to see what Will's expression was, but he didn't dare to. "I talked to Sebastian, and he said that he saw you crying by a river." Is that what you can't wrap your head around? Grell remembered that night. It was after a particularly rough night. Will had been much harder with the whip, and had left bleeding welts along his skin, along with a dislocated shoulder. He had run away, not being able to handle these feelings of loneliness in his chest. He actually contemplated feeding himself to the lowly demons, a gruesome death for a reaper. Anything to escape his feelings, but he couldn't do it. He thought of Will's face, and his resolve crumbled. Even when contemplating death, he thought of Will. "Why were you crying?" "Because you raped him." Will's tone of voice commanded an answer, yet Grell kept silent. Silence was golden. Silence was safety. Silence was the only thing that was keeping him in a sense, sane. "Tell me," shout William. Not shouted, or shouts. Shout William. Suddenly, like a lightning bolt, a poem Grell wrote long ago popped into his head. One he had written to Will. Poetry helped him, somewhat, to cope with everything, and that particular poem he was thinking about meant the world to him. Did he want to take the risk and say the poem and risk... That was redundant, Will getting furious at him? Or did he want to keep it to himself, letting it collect dust in his mind? Grell thought for a nanosecond. He decided to take the risk. Grell slowly opened his and looked at Will's face. We don't know what he opened, but I'm going to assume it was his eyes, whose facial expression went from angry to shock. Grell felt his tears slid down his cheeks, and like a broken dam, his pent-up feelings flooded out of him. More tears fell down his face, and his breathing became laboured. Grell took a deep breath to steady himself and began reciting the poem he memorized long ago. Memorized, you wrote it. Take me into your arms, my love, and rape me. What? I wish that you would love me as I have loved you, but I know that is simply a petty fantasy. I am yours now and forever. Of that, my love, there is no question. My better half, it's true, has seen the darker side of you. My innocence was stripped away, yet I cannot find it within myself to hate you. I wish you could come to love me as I have always loved you. By the end of the poem, that really wasn't a poem, Grell's body was shaking with sobs, the words barely understandable. The hurt of knowing that he wasn't special to Will made his heart scream in agony. Now that he knew his true feelings, he would laugh at him or sneer at his emotions. Before any of that could happen, though, Grell had to say the 3 words he had always wanted to say. If I'm going to confess my feelings, I might as well go all the way. I'm sorry, Will, I love you. I'm sorry for loving you. Grell choked on air as he sobbed out his confession, trying to inhale with his heaving lungs. Damn it, Grell, breathe. He was flipped onto his back. I thought he was already on his back, and patted him roughly. Will attempted to get him to breathe. Grell took a shuddering breath and looked over his shoulder. His eyes teared up once more just by the sight of Will's face. What are you going to do now? Laugh at me? Kill me? Dump me somewhere? Will looked shocked at Grell's suggestions. Just get it over with. Come on. I can't handle the pain any more. A fresh wave of tears filled Grell's eyes once more, and he buried his head into a pillow, not daring to look at Will as he made his decision on what to do with him. You never told me. A hand gently laid itself on his back, Will's voice washing over him. Why would I? You never showed you cared about me. Hence the raping. Grell heard a sigh from behind him, and then suddenly he was flipped onto his back. Okay, I'm very confused as to their positioning right now. His breath stole away from the fire, the need that was in Will's eyes. It seems we have both been fools. No, only one of you. The person who's raping another person. Yeah. Not explaining himself, Grell opened his mouth to ask what he meant, when a pair of lips crashed onto his. A tongue shoved itself in and rubbed against Grell's, making him whimper, partly in pain and partly in pleasure. Will must have heard the sound, because he pulled back, staring at Grell. What are you? I'm sorry. What? I said I'm sorry. Tell me, can you guess as to why I blackmailed you? Because you're a terrible person? Grell slowly shook his head no, because Grell has no sense, not knowing where Will was headed with his sentence. Because I wanted you. No, it was too good to be true. You're lying, said Grell through his tears. I'm not. I thought at least this way I would be able to have your body. Feeling tears gather in the corner of his eyes again, Grell tried to turn to face away, but Will's hands came and grasped his face gently, as if he were made of glass. Let me have you for tonight. I am by no means a gentle lover. You have seen that, when I have raped you, because I'm a terrible person. But I want to make this work. I know I have abused you. Raped you. Will seemed to stumble over his words, and something akin to pride swelled in Grell, knowing that he was the cause of Will losing his normally perfect composure. "And I have probably hurt you in ways I can't imagine, but I'm begging for you to give me a second chance. I understand if you push me away right now, and refuse to never speak to me again. Refuse to never speak to me again, that's a double negative. But please consider being with me." Will took a deep breath as he finished his speech, daring not to look up at Grell. His eyes widened in shock as Grell's scarred arms, most of them caused by him, wrapped firmly around his neck, bringing his body down to lay flush against Grell's. "I have accepted everything about you long ago, the good and the bad. I wouldn't think of anywhere else I would rather be," said Grell, casting aside his fears that the whole situation that was happening was part of William's master plan to tease him into submission. Soft lips pressed themselves to his neck, making Grell hiss in reluctant pleasure. "I'll try being gentle. No promises, though." More kisses rained down upon Grell's neck, making him softly moan from the soft touch, softly. Never before had he felt such tenderness from Will. It was always pain, 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 and more pain, and some more pain after that. And now that he had a taste of something sweeter and gentler, Grell wasn't sure he would ever be able to go back. Hands pressed themselves under Grell's back, and he turned as Will rolled them over, their bodies reversed from what it was before. Grell. The way Will said his name made Grell's heartbeat speed up. Slowly, Grell raised a hand to brush at Will's lips, asking with his eyes if it was okay to touch. If it was okay to show his love for Will. With a simple nod of his head, he gave Grell permission to explore his body. Grell's fingers instantly trailed Will's lips, ran over his cheeks, touching every part of his face. Leaning in, Grell pressed his lips to Will's. Will's tongue pushed past Grell's lips with ease and devoured his mouth, a shocked moan leaving Grell. Their tongues tangoed with each other for eternity, before the need to breathe had them pulling apart. We've already established that death gods don't need to breathe. The kiss seemed to snap something in Will, for his hand started to roam over Grell's body, squeezing his butt numerous times. Grell ignored the sting of his back in favor of slowly rutting against Will's leg. Said leg came up and rubbed back, hard, making Grell see stars across his vision. "Will," Grell moaned breathlessly. A shudder went through Will, as his name being called out, fingers moving up from Grell's butt to his lips. "Suck." Grell's breath hitched, and his eyes started to water. This was going to be the first time Will would ever prepare him. Ow. Letting his fingers slip into his mouth, Grell closed his eyes and focused on coating them thoroughly, sucking on them with vigor. They forcefully left his mouth, and I'm not quite sure how William's fingers are still intact, and trailed down his body, making him shudder. Soon the same fingers he coated with his spit parted his butt cheeks and slowly rimmed his hole. "Are you ready?" Grell nodded his head, burrowing his face into Will's neck. His fingers continued to rim him for a bit longer before it pushed in, going all the way up to his knuckle. "Ah!" A violent shudder ran through Grell as the finger kept sliding in and out of him, a second one joining it. "Will, more, please." More moans continued to spill from Grell's lips as Will continued to stretch him out. Soon a third finger joined, and a slight twinge of pain. They soon left his body, making Grell slump against Will's solid chest. Will grabbed Grell's hips and raised them, positioning him just outside his hole. "You ready?" That was the first time Will had ever asked that question, except for just above. Nodding yes, Grell braced himself as Will slowly slid into his body, not stopping till he was balls deep. Shudders racked Grell's body as he tried to get used to the intrusion. It was an odd feeling, considering how he never truly felt Will, since he always would just thrust in and out with vigor. It was a strange sensation. Will's hands gripped his hips tightly, his hands shaking with the effort of staying still. "So tight," hissed Will, bucking up instinctively. A gasp left Grell, and some of Will's self-control slipped as he pulled completely out and snapped his hips forward, burying himself in Grell's heat. Not burying, just burring. Grunted Grell, a hint of pain in his voice. Shit. Sorry, Grell. Just can't imagine Will saying shit. Will's hands moved from his hips to his shoulders, while Will pulled Grell's body flush against his. They stayed still for what seemed like forever, Will stumbling over words of comfort, his awkwardness of showing comfort evident in his speech. The next thrust was from Grell, who slowly grinded back. Will's hands stopped him, and he looked at Grell's eyes. Just hold still a minute. If you move, I won't be able to control myself. Grell ignored Will's warning and pushed back again, his mouth falling open and eyes fluttered in bliss. That's fine. I just want to feel you. Grell slowly set the pace, heaving himself up and slowly slinking back down, a breathy moan leaving his lips every time, the feel of Will overloading his senses. God, Will. So good. Shit. Grell, I'm sorry. Grell made a questioning noise in the back of his throat at the apology, but yelped when he was flipped onto his back, Will slipping out of him at the action. Will? Grell looked back at him, his breath catching in his throat as Will grasped and positioned himself back at Grell's entrance, his hand shaking with desire. With a single snap of his hips, Will buried himself into Grell, Grell's mouth opening wide as he nearly screamed, but not in pain, but rather in bliss. Will grasped both of Grell's ankles, spreading them apart. Where? How is he? And pulled back before snapping forward again. The bed creaked with the force of the thrusts, the air filling with the scent and sweat of sex. Grell's breath screams were followed by Will's grunts as they moved closer and closer to release they both needed and wanted. Can't last, Grell managed to cry out, his hands finding purchase in the bed sheets underneath him. Will just grunted and moved faster, trying to make them both come. Somehow managing to loosen his grip on the sheets, he brought his hand up to wrap around Will's shoulder. Grell. The way Will said his name, it was like he was worshipping a god. Or something. And it was ultimately Grell's undoing. The cord that had been tightening in his stomach snapped, and with a loud cry, Grell's essence went all over his chest, painting it a pearly white. Will moaned low in his chest, the tight grip around his dick tightening even more. With a few more earth-shattering thrusts, he came inside Grell, his load being too much for Grell's body. It started to leak out around Will's member, trickling in between his cheeks. Grell wrinkled his nose at the sensation, but focused on the euphoric feeling of love that was in him. Will collapsed onto him. The only sound in the room was their heavy breathing. Will's arms wrapped around Grell's torso, pulling him close, their heartbeats in sync with one another. What happens now? Asked Grell, breaking the silence. He didn't want to go back to the way things were, or even worse, have Will brush the whole thing off. His heart was content for the first time since their twisted relationship started. For the first time he felt whole, complete. Will hummed in thought before he huffed, pushing himself up to look at Grell's face. Isn't it obvious? You're moving your stuff to my room. That is, if you want to. Will quickly added to the last sentence, making his demand turn into a suggestion. How magnanimous of him. A stunning smile lit up Grell's face as he registered Will's words. He snuggled up to Will and closed his eyes, reveling in the feeling of happiness, and Will's fingers tracing random patterns across his skin. Grell wasn't dumb. He knew there would be a lot of obstacles to work through, and a lot of actions to forgive and forget. But Grell would be willing to work through it all. After all, it would be for the only person he had ever truly loved. Maybe fate liked him after all. No, fate still doesn't like you. I'll see you guys later. Ta-ta.